Well, thank you for staying with us. This is Business Nigeria. The Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Mr. Emitomi Agama, has reiterated the Commission's commitment to maintaining high standards in the cryptocurrency regulations. Mr. Agama made the disclosure at the recent Business Day Blockchain Conference in Lagos, emphasizing that the capital market regulator will not compromise on its regulatory framework for cryptocurrencies. The SEC-DG said the Commission is open to feedback and suggestions from stakeholders, but would not relax its standards to accommodate the interest of market players. You will agree with me that regulations in this case from SEC has faced criticism from crypto operators for its stringent regulatory measures before now. Industry players say that those regulations create barriers to entry for many crypto firms, effectively limiting competition and innovation. Let's get talking. Our second topic. My guest is the lead partner, Infusion Lawyers, Senator Ihenyen. It's good to have you after some time. How have you been?
Always a pleasure to be here. I'm very happy to be here.
Yes, I think we need to start with restrictions in 2021. What has been the state of blockchain and cryptocurrency adoption in Nigeria since then?
It's interesting that you started from the restriction in 2021.
Yeah,
because that's circular by the Central Bank of Nigeria largely defined the immediate future of crypto in Nigeria, as well as digital assets, in terms of not just adoption, but also in terms of policy and regulatory frameworks after then. As you would recall, before that 2021 restriction, the growth in adoption of crypto in Nigeria was growing pretty fast. And essentially and understandably, I think the central bank got a little jittery about what effects that rate of adoption could have on the entire financial system. And the best way it could react was to restrict cryptocurrency transactions in Nigerian banking and financial system, which is understandable. But unfortunately, what happened was that crypto adoption was pushed underground. And where things happen on the ground, you don't have transparency, you don't have efficiency, you don't have visibility. What happens is that bad actors will take undue advantage of that market, right? So coming from then, we saw Nigerians push away a bit from the financial banking system to peer-to-peer adoption. Which
that's P2P.
Yeah, P2P, peer-to-peer adoption. And as you would find later on, Nigeria became, in very quick successive years, the leader in the world. We beat India, we beat Russia, we beat Vietnam as far as crypto adoption is concerned, peer-to-peer, meaning that right now we're even farther away from the regulatory purview of regulators. Where we are right now, thankfully, is that after about 3 years, the central bank, I believe, based on data available to it, must have seen that this circular, the policy introduced in 2021, was not quite fine. So it introduced what it calls a regulatory framework that allows banks and financial institutions to again start onboarding virtual asset service providers in the country. That was about 3 days to Christmas last year. And that was
a good Christmas.
Very good Christmas, right? A lot of expectations going into 2024. And thankfully, I think that shift in mindset and in positioning by the central bank also now defined how other regulators would come in. The Securities and Exchange Commission, one of the regulatory agencies that one of the leaders in this space, was pretty happy seeing how the central bank had to review its stance. Because I tell you, what happened is the Securities and Exchange Commission, since 2018, had set up a fintech roadmap committee to ensure that, hey, while these innovations are going on, we need a regulatory framework that is proactive and at the same time is able to ensure that there's a balance between innovation and regulation. In 2020, it came up and we issued a statement saying that we are defining crypto as digital assets in the country. And for this purpose, we will classify and regulate this market. Unfortunately, before the SEC could come up with a framework for this sector, the CBN struck 5th February 2021. The rest is history. Now SEC is back in the market, very confident that this time we have the CBN's backing. And so also don't forget, for the first time, the federal government of Nigeria, precisely June 2023, came up and said, you know what, there is no direction as far as Nigeria is concerned when it comes to blockchain adoption in the country, when it comes to policy. Everyone seems to be working in silos.
Yeah.
There is no vision. So let's come up with a blockchain adoption strategy. He called it the National Blockchain Policy. June 2023. It was approved by the then President, Muhammadu Buhari. And it was fantastic. Why? Because for the first time, Nigeria could say, this is our documented idea of what blockchain is or means to Nigeria, and how Nigeria, as a state or a government, wishes to engage. Thankfully, we have things around innovation, policy, regulations, even blockchain education taken care of. It also sets up what is called a National Blockchain Steering and Implementation Committee, which we are so proud is chaired by a frontline industry player, Chimizie Chuta, who happens to be our vice chairman at the Blockchain Industry Coordinating Committee of Nigeria, BICOM.
Wow.
So it's been a journey, and I think that for the first time, Nigeria has a golden opportunity to redefine its position in the markets because we're leaders in these markets.
Interesting stuff. I really like the way you started this conversation with that background and all of it. But considering recent experiences that we've seen, foreign brands such as Binance, we saw what happened with OKX and some others having to, having issues in the country. We know what all of this is. Now, do you think that Nigerian cryptocurrency business climate is really conducive or friendly enough to attract more investors?
That's a very good question. Innovators, including local and foreign players in the crypto markets, have had concerns, and understandably so, that the environment, especially when it comes to regulation, is not conducive enough. Why? Because there's lack of clarity, there's lack of certainty, there is no direction as to, okay, if I launch these products in Nigeria, these are the things that apply. These are the places to get licenses. If I want to make reports on money laundering, terrorism financing, this is where I need to go. All that hasn't been clear. In advanced countries such as the US, UK, you talk about a malaise. It's called regulatory enforcement. In other words, it means that regulation by enforcement, rather. What that means is, rather than sitting down to understand the space and then introduce adaptive and risk-based regulation based on the risk you have seen and evaluated, rather than doing that, you sit back and you want to enforce without regulatory frameworks being set up. Those are the effects we're getting in the space. And that's why you will find players like Binance, getting into trouble in Nigeria. You get players like OKX, which, recently announced that it was exiting the Nigerian crypto market because it wasn't friendly. You get guys like even KuCoin introducing a VAT, introducing VAT, VAT, that's a value-added tax in the country, without any pronouncements or guidelines from the Federal Inland Revenue Services. So it's been a little bit challenging for players in the space to say Nigeria is really conducive environment. And we have seen, unfortunately, the effect of this is that a lot of CEOs and founders in the country have pushed away from the country. They've gone to other places, like Dubai, for instance. Even South Africa, at the time Nigeria, through SEC, issued for the first time its statements on how to classify digital assets in the country. 2020, guess what? South Africa was trying to learn from Nigeria how it will approach the market. Today, South Africa already has an established licensing system for the crypto markets. We lost a lot of players to the South African markets. We've also lost a lot of players to the Dubai markets because there is relatively more certainty and transparency in those areas. So we have work to do in this sector.
What does the national blockchain policy document, what does it have to do in all of this? Can you briefly take us through it?
I'm glad you mentioned that because sometimes, I'm not a very old person, but I think that seeing how Nigeria works, we're so good with paperwork. Yeah. And then when it comes to implementation, everyone disappears from the room. The blockchain adoption strategy was one of the initiatives of the then federal minister in the communications and digital economy sector. And working along with the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITSTA, to say it's high time Nigeria has a direction on what to do with blockchain and its applications in various sectors. We no longer are happy with a situation where there is friction, tension, and even misconceptions around blockchain. You wouldn't believe this. I was the president of the Stakeholders in Blockchain Technology Association at the time, General Secretary. We could not even get the Blockchain Association registered. Do you know why? Because the Corporate Affairs Commission had ideas about, hey, is it blockchain? Oh, you crypto people, we will not register this association. And that lasted for years. So what I'm trying to say is that the National Blockchain Adoption Strategy came up to say, henceforth, all government agencies, from the EFCC to the Central Bank of Nigeria, to the Securities and Exchange Commission, to just mention them, we all need to come to the room, join the steering committee, and help Nigeria, move in a manner that is much more positively engaging with players in the sector. So it's a public-private sector kind of partnership. And at the end of the day, Nigeria is saying we are going to be addressing issues around, one, innovation. We're interested in blockchain applications across sectors of the economy, whether it's for digital identity, whether it's for agriculture, whether it's for health. We're interested, and we want to partner with you players to ensure that Nigeria is a player as far as innovation is concerned. Secondly, you talked about awareness and education. You can't really move a market if people in a country don't even understand what blockchain or crypto is. So the blockchain adoption strategy is saying we need to create a lot of we need to have players and partners come together to talk about how to drive blockchain awareness and education in the country. And then there's the part about regulation. How do we go about regulation? The most important part of that document regarding regulation is that rather than keep treating crypto, the manner Nigeria has been treating crypto, more like stigmatization, demonization, sometimes even criminalization. Let's look at embracing crypto, but without compromising standards. We will introduce anti-money laundering and policies, as well as introduce policies around countering the financing of terrorism using virtual assets. And that was the key. Really key, because at the end of the day, in 2022, precisely in May, what happened is that Nigeria, working with the National Assembly, for the first time, recognized virtual assets in the Money Laundering Act 2022, in the Terrorism Act 2022, for the first time. What this means is that going forward, when it comes to monitoring, supervision, reporting of crypto-related crimes in a country, you can be sure that you can go to the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU, to say, okay, we've had these suspicious reports. We would like to make, submit such reports to you for further investigations. So this was really helpful. And like I said earlier, we now have a steering committee. Indeed. That steering committee pulls players from both private sector and public sector, including the CBN, the SEC as well, and associations, the blockchain associations that are also in there, ensuring that for the first time, everyone will be in the room to talk about where we are and where we need to get to.
Well, since 2021, I'm aware of the eNaira thing. I think I even downloaded it at that time. I was one of the few persons that took advantage of that. That's the central bank digital currency. But it seems like the adoption is not really encouraging. You're an advocate of a blockchain advocate. What do you think can be done by the Apex Bank to redirect this and get it right?
This question might have just saved the eNaira. I say so because, as you must have noticed, the eNaira has been sleeping for a long time.
Yeah, it has.
If we go back to when the eNaira was launched in October 2021 by the Muhammadu Buhari administration, I think it was the Governor Emefiele that was the central bank governor then. If you really look at it, I think that there are certain factors pulling the eNaira back. As we know, eNaira is central bank digital currency. In other words, Nigeria is saying that we understand that we're now in a smart economy, in a digital economy. It's time to have our Naira, which is the ledger, right? Let's have our own legal tender. Let's have it become smarter by ensuring that you can use eNaira for payments, for cross-border transactions, and all the rest of it. Beautiful stuff. But what has happened? I have to say this, two things. One, I think that, first of all, the purpose or the reason or the immediate issue that informed the introduction of the eNaira was inherently questionable in the first place. The eNaira rush was essentially about how do we stop people from going to Bitcoin, from going to Ethereum, rather than going to those privately issued cryptocurrencies. Let's bring them to a blockchain-supported digital currency that will be owned by the central bank. That was a little challenging because you already have people in millions. Today, they say more than 32 million Nigerians own cryptocurrencies. You're trying to divert all that number into eNaira. It's not going to work like that. So that's one thing I see as one of the reasons why we're seeing a bit of slowness in adoption. Secondly, is this. I think that based on infrastructure, the central bank needs to open the cage and let the bird fly. How do I mean? eNaira is a fantastic innovation, but the way it is structured right now as something that is wholly owned by the central bank, right? The central bank creates an eNaira wallet, right? Which will require you and I to leave our bank apps and then move to an eNaira wallet. I opened an eNaira wallet long ago. I've never seen it since then because it doesn't serve any use to me. And I don't know how many people you've seen who say, give me your eNaira wallet, I want to make a transfer. No. It doesn't happen. No. You know why? The central bank, and I hope the central bank is listening, they need to review the structure of the eNaira and turn it from a retail eNaira. It needs to be given to the banks and financial institutions. In other words, a bank should be able to say, central bank, I'm interested in the eNaira. I will want to use the infrastructure. They use the API and market eNaira to their customers, renaming it whatever they think. If I am Orange Bank PLC, I should be able to walk to the central bank and say, I need your eNaira infrastructure. I want to introduce Orange Coin to my customers.
So that you put it I get
Exactly.
your point.
So it's the same it's technology.
Opened up.
But now it's opened up. It's decentralized. The beauty of blockchain is decentralization. You don't need blockchain if you want to centralize everything.
Yeah.
So you need to decentralize the CBDC in era. Once you give it to people who really need it, you're home and dry. You're home and dry. That's the in era.
1 minute. Time is really fast spent. What's your outlook? Where do you see the industry as we move on? Let's wrap up on that note in 1 minute, please.
Yes. I think that the industry is in a fine place right now.
Wow.
As far as the promises are concerned. You know, just recently, the SEC introduced approvals in principle to some of the players in the space. It means that we now have an incubation system, whereby if you pass through that incubation system successfully, the end of the pipeline, you will be issued a license. So Nigeria has at least something that leads you to a license. That's fantastic. And just to wrap this up, I think that I would like to commend the SEC for the work it's doing. I would like to openly appeal to the federal government, the Ministry of Finance, as well as the Central Bank of Nigeria, to be a bit more supportive of the work that the SEC is doing. By the nature of virtual assets, we think that the SEC has a lot of role to play here. So it should get some leverage.
Senator Ihenyen, you can go on and on when it's about crypto, but I must thank you so much for your time. Let me get a handshake. It's really good to see you. He's our lead partner of Infusion Lawyers. Thank you so much. Hope to have you in again.
I'll be glad.
All right, then. Well, it's time to talk markets now. And I have Mr. Tajudeen Olayinka, who's an investment banker and stockbroker. He joins me via phone to talk markets.